Hello, happy to be here. Hope you've gotten, I know you've gotten lots of information, and hopefully you aren't feeling like information overload, because I do know that funding this great degree is an important consideration for all of you. So I'm going to take just a few minutes and talk briefly about funding that's available from Peabody. I'm talking about internal only. So if you are lucky enough to have an employer who will do funding for you, some external funding source, I'm not going to address those today. I will talk about just things that are available from Peabody, from Vanderbilt internally. So next slide, please. Oh, I didn't realize I had a title slide. I'm Jackie Rogers, as I said, Associate Dean for Data Analytics. Thanks, Brian. So as I said, I'm going to talk about internal funding. I will talk about scholarships and assistantships. And then Samantha Rogers will talk about loans that are available just after I talk about this. So if you just keep in mind, financial questions, Rogers. I'm Jackie Rogers, and then Samantha Rogers. So as the slide shows, there we have three types of internal funding from Peabody: scholarships, which go to cover tuition; assistantships, I'll talk about that in just a second; and then loans. So next slide, please. Scholarship. There is not a separate application for consideration of scholarships. Every applicant is considered based on your application material. So what Dawn was talking about, making your package as strong as possible, comes into play. Not just should we admit you, but also what type of scholarship might you be qualified to get. Notification of those scholarships is at time of admission. So when you receive the letter that says, congratulations, we're happy to admit you, it would then also say, and we are pleased to offer you whatever level of scholarship. And there are varying levels of scholarship. I will tell you, Peabody does not offer 100% scholarships for master's and EDD students, what we call our professional programs. PhD students have a totally different package and do have 100% funding and some additional funding in other ways for those PhD programs. I know that was a question that came in before we started. So also a question that came in, I know, was about international students. Yes, you are considered just as is everyone else. Everyone is in the pool for scholarships. Scholarship is for the duration of your program, and notice there's an asterisk there. That's just to say it's for the hours you need to complete your program successfully. Just like when you were an undergrad, there may be a class, you know, over here or over here that sounds really interesting and you'd like to take it, but if it's not part of the hours you need to complete your program, we can't scholarship that. You're welcome to take the class, but the scholarship only goes to those courses that are in your program. So that's where duration, that's what the asterisk is referencing. Also, obviously, you have to be in good standing in the program. And for those of you who are maybe are an alumnus from Teach for America or AmeriCorps, one of those great service opportunities, you are guaranteed a minimum of a 35% tuition scholarship by being someone coming successfully out of those programs. That also says something to us about what you're capable of and what we can expect from you in our degree programs. One scholarship at a time. If for those of you who are familiar with academic lingo, it's called stacking. So you can't take, say that, suppose you have a Teach for America scholarship is a guaranteed 35%, and then the program that is considering you says, wow, we would like to offer them a dean's tuition scholarship, which is 50%. You can't stack those two. You would get the higher scholarship of the two. We always advantage the student if you have multiple offers, but you cannot take, 50% from the program plus 30% or 35% from TFA. Wow, I have 85%. Sorry, we just are not able to do that. That said, scholarships can be combined with other types of awards. And that gets us to, next slide, please, assistantships. So assistantships actually go by many names. You might hear about a research assistantship, a teaching assistantship, a graduate award, a stipend, the department award, many different names, same idea for all of these. It's that you are performing some sort of work or service in order to receive that benefit. Whereas a scholarship is free and clear, just given to you against your tuition, assistantships require some sort of input from you to receive the assistantship. Usually these are awarded sometime in the spring for the next fall. So this in spring of 22, there will start to be postings on both the Peabody job board and the Hire-A-Door, which is the university-wide board, about assistantships that are available. Those continue through the summer, through the fall, and actually a few come in during the fall semester. And the reason is that faculty receive grants throughout the year. There isn't just one period of time when a faculty member might hear, oh, you've received this grant. It has money included for you to bring on master's students to work in your lab. And so they would then post immediately to the job board to get students that they need to support their grant activity. But the bulk of those really do come from the spring to early fall. What that means, unfortunately, is that some of you need to come possibly with a little, leap of faith. I need an assistantship. I don't have one yet. Our experience has been that people who want an assistantship, 99% of those get some sort of assistantship and award. I cannot guarantee you that you will have one. I cannot guarantee you that will be doing exactly what it is that you might want to do, but assistantships are available. Sometimes those are tuition-based, just like a scholarship. Sometimes it's an hourly position. Sometimes it's a stipend. Sometimes there are combinations of awards. So it's part tuition and part housing, or part tuition and a stipend. So you can also go buy food. There are just different ways those are configured based on who's offering it and what the need is. So I don't really have a lot of details about those because they're really, it's broad. I believe if you haven't gotten it already, either Hasina or Kim will provide a link for the Peabody job board so you can see what's listed there now. I don't think there's a lot listed there right now in October, but you can get an idea of it, and you don't need to be admitted with a VUNet ID to see that board and get an idea of the types of things that are there. For the Hire-A-Door, which is university-wide, you would need to have accepted admission and then be issued that VUNet ID in order to be able to view those. Next slide, please. Other resources. There's information about external fellowships and a scholarship directory for external scholarships outside of Peabody that you can access. And then there's something called Grad Ready. These links to these are available on our Peabody pages about financial aid. And I think, and then the next slide, sorry, there's a link or an email address for questions. If you have other questions, we're always happy to answer those. One thing you will find about us, if you haven't already, is everyone is very happy to answer whatever question you have, even if it might not be the answer that we know is the one you want. We're going to be honest and upfront. We are not going to try to finesse anything by you. We want to be totally honest and upfront. We want it to be a good experience and a good choice. We don't want you to feel like there were any surprises or things that you didn't expect to find when you came. I have not been watching the chat, but I see that 30 comments have come in while I've been talking. Kim, do you want to address those, or are there things I need to address, or should I turn it over to Samantha?
You can turn it over to Samantha. Sina's been helping me answer those questions, and I will put my email in the chat again. So if we did miss a question, you can just email me. So I think we're good to turn it over to Samantha.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of this. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for being here, Jackie.
All right. Can you hear me, Kim? Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. Sorry, guys. I am doing a presentation at a unusual location, but I'm going to try to get through this. Next slide. So I'm Samantha Rogers. I am newly appointed. I was assistant director, and now I'm the director of financial aid over at Peabody College. And so I'm just going to talk to you about your options in terms of federal aid. So this is if you complete a FAFSA, the free application for student aid. This is what we're going to touch on today. Next slide, please. All right, so the most important thing is, even if you don't think you're going to need to complete a FAFSA, I still recommend that you do so. You will need to complete the FAFSA at studentaid.gov. Please note that it is free. I've had some students come to me and say, I went to the website and was charged $65. If you're being charged, you're at the wrong website. You will need your FSA ID to complete the FAFSA. If you had a FSA ID as an undergrad, you would use that same one. And if not, then you would need to create one at that website. And so the FAFSA is for any US citizen or US eligible non-citizen. And so if you're not sure if you're an eligible non-citizen, you can go to that studentaid.gov website and determine if you meet those qualifications. But it is for those individuals that fall in that category. And so for most of you all, if you think you're going to start your program next fall, or if you're accepted next fall, then you need to complete I think it's the 22-23 FAFSA. And if you're starting in the summer, you're going to do the 2021-2022 FAFSA. And if you're going to attend both semesters, the summer and the fall, you need to complete both. I know it's a little bit confusing, but they do the FAFSA by 8 or school years. And so remember, I can see people in the chat, and just remember, this is just for federal aid only. Next slide, please. All right, so once you complete a FAFSA, I can tell you right now that the typical award is an unsubsidized loan for up to $20,500 for the school year. And so that's typically divided between fall and spring. That amount is not determined by the university, that is determined by the Department of Education. So that's the maximum amount that a student could receive for that particular loan for one given year. We also have students, if they find that their scholarship and unsubsidized loan don't cover their charges, they typically apply for a direct Graduate Plus loan or private loans. We would always recommend a direct Graduate Plus loan because of the repayment benefits, but it is a credit-based loan. But you can also read more about that loan online at studentaid.gov. Just note that if you are getting scholarships or assistantships, we will disperse or process that money first, and then we will process any loans. And so if you have a number or a substantial amount of financial aid or like scholarships or grants, that can reduce how much you'll receive in a federal loan. And the reason being is because that students cannot receive more aid than their actual cost of attendance. Again, that's not a university policy, that's the Department of Education policy. So you just want to keep that in mind. To receive federal aid, you have to be at least a part-time student. And so to be a part-time student, you're going to need to be enrolled in 6 hours in the fall, 6 hours in the spring, and then during the summer semester, 3 hours is considered to be part-time status. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the other things some students might see on their financial aid award is federal work study. Federal work study, it's a subsidized, if you want, a fund And essentially what it is for the opportunity for you to work on campus and earn money. And so you will see on your financial aid award that, hey, you can earn up to $9,000 in federal work study. And so the federal work study is not applied towards your bill or your charges, but yet it's just money that you can keep in your pocket for personal expenses. And so typically federal work study jobs, most of them are on campus. They're part-time jobs for students with financial need and are explained that it can't be applied to your tuition or charges. Typically for our grad students, the starting pay is about $10 or $11 an hour. The departments at least have to pay you minimum wage, is what you see is that $7.25 an hour, but typically they have to, most grad students start at about $10 or $11 an hour. And there are over 300 departments on campus in which you should be able to find a job. I've never had any of our students not be able to find a job on campus. So it's just something to keep in mind. And if you're asking or wondering, why would I want a federal work study job instead of going out, off campus and getting one? Typically our on-campus employers are more understanding and flexible with your schedule. So for example, in our office, we have about 7 or 8 students. And I oversee a couple of those students. And if they need to not go to work that day because they have an exam or need to prepare for a paper, I totally understand, and it's not a problem. So that's just something to keep in mind. You can follow all of our on-campus jobs and even off-campus jobs. We have an online job bank called hireadoor.com. There's where you will find any of our on-campus jobs from, let's see, athletics to the library to the admissions office. You can find any of our jobs there. But if you're not accepted, and like Jackie said, if you haven't been accepted or matriculated, you won't be able to see the jobs because you have to have a special ID to log in. But for new students, typically they can start viewing jobs as early as July, and sometimes it's even a little bit earlier than that, but July at the very latest. Next slide, please. The only thing I would say is we do issue billing statements every semester. So if you're going to start in summer, your billing statement will be issued in May, and typically it's due by the end of the month. And then for fall, we typically issue billing statements August 1st, and then your bill will be due for fall August 31st. We do have a Vandy payment plan that's available for the fall and spring terms. It's not available for the summer, but you can enroll in that plan. And typically the plan starts, I believe, in May for the fall semester. So essentially what you're doing is taking whatever portion you want to enroll in on that payment plan and making monthly payments. So that is an option if you feel like you don't want to do a loan, because no student is obligated to borrow a loan. Other than that, the things that you'll see on your bill in terms of your direct charges is tuition, the student fee, the health insurance, and the student help fee. And so that's why you see there, it says health insurance waivers are due by August 1st. If you have health insurance or don't need health insurance, please sure to complete that waiver. It's online, because otherwise you will be charged because Vanderbilt requires all students to have health insurance. So I hope that information is helpful. Next slide, please. The only other thing I'll mention is I saw two questions real quick. Somebody asked about off-campus versus or out-of-state versus in-state. We only have one tuition rate, so it does not matter. We don't offer special aid for students that are out of state. So it's all the same. And student loans are the standard. In addition to any type of institutional aid, student loans are the standard that most students have to use to cover their additional expenses. And the only other question I think I saw is somebody asked about international students. Unfortunately, the FAFSA, if you're not an eligible non-citizen, they won't allow you to complete a FAFSA. So most of the time that is going to be a cash pay option, which you're paying out of pocket for your expenses. I do understand that's may not be the news that most people want to hear, but I definitely want to make sure that you understand your options, or you can enroll on the Vandy payment plan. I know I spoke really quickly and that's a lot of information, but I know we were behind schedule a little bit, so I just wanted to try to get us there. You see my email address. My email address is samantha.rogers@vanderbilt.edu. I would strongly suggest, please feel free to email me. Phone calls are not the easiest for me to return sometimes, but emails I typically can, respond most of the time the same day. I see a few questions. I will try to jump in the chat and answer them, I guess, Kim, if you need me to, or I can answer them online, whichever you would prefer.